What's the Word podcast? What's going on, y'all? We back in action, back at the studio. Um, so this is a special day we got. Now let me put something in the comments here. This is a special night that we have here. So what we're gonna do is once a month we're gonna have an R&B show, and this is the first one. So it's a very special night as I get this programmed in here. And our special guest is actually on now. But again, this is a first. So we're definitely celebrating tonight. Everybody get your wine glasses and you know what I mean. Definitely get this in, and she's already here. So let me add. So without further ado, our guest of the hour. Waiting on this real quick. But yeah, so for all our listeners out there, a show a month's going to be dedicated to R&B and soul and
You didn't
everything.
tell me to bring wine.
Hey, well, earlier, like, okay, wait a minute. It's Saturday evening.
Yeah, but
You
you
know,
didn't say it was that kind of party. You said we were just going to be talking. I'm trying to keep it professional. You didn't tell me we could bring a wine glass.
yeah, this is what what's the word podcast is more of, let's get to know you type of situation. So first off,
I'll know
thank
next
you.
time. That's my
Yeah, so
bad.
thank you.
I'll know next time. Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much. And I my Instagram inbox right now is flooded to the point that I just had like, okay, let me get ready for this show real quick. So the amount of love just by having you on here has been crazy. But
Thank you.
what is new with you?
Oh my God. There's so much going on in the world, in my world,
For
in the
sure.
world, period. So season 2 of American Soul is on right now.
Got
On
yep.
Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. I need to catch up because we actually just went back up virtually with season 10 of Sunday Best.
Oh
COVID
wow.
shut us down early in the season, nearly 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And no, it's been 3 months. We were shut down for 3 months and finally got the okay and the wherewithal to go up
Mm-hmm.
virtually. So I've been back at that for a little over a week. Very, very long days. I'm not getting a lot of
Yeah.
sleep. I don't know what time of day it is. Um, but I'm being intentional about trying to stay strong mentally and that kind of
Yeah.
thing because we're living in a very different world. I lost my grandfather to COVID
Um.
back in April, and he was more like my dad. My dad died when I was really young, and so dealing with that, with him being back in New York, with not being able to go see him, I'm plowing through work right now, but with a real intention to, once I'm done with this, be intentional about giving myself an opportunity to just breathe and even grieve, because if I think about it too much while I'm trying to work, I don't get much done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's muscle motion.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty much, I'm just acknowledging that I'm on autopilot.
Yeah. There you
This
go.
is year 28 plus for
Yeah.
me in the game. And so, um, needless to say, I can autopilot it. I try not to as often as possible because I feel like the people deserve better than that. But we're all very much in the same situation in terms of everybody is vulnerable to this
Yeah.
disease, and there's no cure, there's no antidote, and so we just have to be smart. So I'm doing my part. I am staying in the house. I'm protesting from my laptop and
Mm-hmm.
my phone, um, and staying prayerful and hopeful that people will just come on the other side of this better. I've made a personal vow that I feel like I've been a kind person in my life. I feel like I've been considerate, but I've promised myself to be a better Kelly on the other side of all of
Yeah.
this,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a wake up call, not for America, but for the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been well, first off too, very sorry for your loss.
Thank
Very
you so
sorry.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
But in a like you said, you can't even call it a wake up call. Like what is this? This is just,
Mm,
it's unprecedented. Like this isn't happening, and a lot of things we talk about issues, you'd be like, well, in my grandparents' time, this happened. This isn't even
Yes.
stuff. So besides the protesting, but with the COVID and everything, this isn't something that we can go to our elders and be like, okay, what did you guys do?
No, no, this is brand new. Nobody knows what to do with this thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? I will say this because I don't want us I don't want us to get
Sure.
people like the news is depressing
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, yeah. Or
Um,
that's what I'm here for,
but the
but
news is our reality, so we do have to
yeah, yeah.
address the issues. Like literally, just some craziness happened here in Atlanta hours ago that is making global news right now, where another person was killed by a police officer, an
Unarmed.
unarmed person, right? Like, so again, I'm staying at home. I'm
Yeah.
staying at home. But I will say that I am very grateful that I have the ability to, through my music, through my
Mm-hmm.
art, through my creativity, make these new and really seemingly not like unconscionable at times circumstances that we're living under a little more bearable.
Yeah.
I think in times like this, as a creator, it's great to be able to use the gifts that God gave me to help people get through their day just
For
a
sure.
little bit easier, because everybody's having a hard time right now.
Yeah. And I
Um,
too, they don't see that for an artist as well, that music is kind of a punching bag. You know, music moves a lot of people, but
Music is
even
my
for,
therapy.
yeah, for sure.
Music is
For,
my therapy. I'm at home with the dog.
mhm. Yeah.
And I'm on
No.
day 89
Mhm.
of,
I mean,
self quarantine.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So like I walk around the house sometimes and just very intentionally sing out loud like I'm on a stage, just to make my atmosphere feel brighter. And
Mm-hmm.
I encourage other people to do the same. Put on your favorite music. Put on music from an
Yeah.
era when you were in the club and you were able to go out and be
Mm-hmm.
with your girls or hang with your guys or do whatever it is. We have to be intentional about staying healthy in every way. This is not just a physical thing, but in the mental as well. And so
It's
since I've
huge.
been locked up in the house, I have released 2 singles.
Yeah. And
One is an inspirational single. The other
yeah.
one is a traditional Kelly Price R&B ballad. And again, it is to keep my mind
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
and to not get mentally sucked in so much by what's going on in the world. By all means, stay informed,
Mm-hmm.
but do what you need to do to make sure that you stay mentally whole and
Yeah. 'Cause
healthy. And so, yeah,
mental happiness is huge,
absolutely.
on your physical being.
It
It's not
is.
just, you know,
It
that, I
is.
mean, I think they always say mind and soul, because they
Mind
know,
and soul.
you
Yes.
know, you always going to run together. So I got
Yes.
to get, a little something. So I read I've been doing,
Yes.
look, I've been doing a lot of research and reading, and obviously I was a big fan before, but
Thank
my
you.
buddy Todd Davis is like, look, I don't think you know the Miss Kelly Price like I you should. You need to go do some knowledge, right? But on a lot of articles and everything, they say the same thing. They say you started singing as a toddler, and they use that specific word, like
Yeah.
in, and I noticed it in multiple ones. So what are we talking toddler? Are we talking like 6, 7? What, I mean, before, when, because they use the same.
No. No, literally. So when TV One did an Unsung on me about 5 years ago, they interviewed my aunt, my mother's sister,
Mhm.
and she recalled me in the crib before I could talk, like having memorized songs that I'd heard throughout the day and humming them in the crib. And
Wow.
so music literally is my first language. Before I was forming sentences, I was humming melodies that I'd retained, that music that I either heard in church or music that
Yeah. Yeah.
my mother was playing around the house. And so that's crazy because she told me that. She told
Wow.
me that. And so literally music is my first language. English is my second language.
Well, I'm glad they worded it like that, because, like I said, with a bunch of stuff I read, it always said the same word, so it stuck out to
Yeah.
me in doing it. And I'm like, there's got to be a reason they're using that, because toddler does, you know, I'm thinking, well,
Yeah.
like 7, that's not really toddler, right?
No,
So,
literally, this is single digit before kindergarten.
well,
Like
I'm glad they
still
were,
in the
because
crib.
that's
Like,
important. But that shows you, like you were just talking about, you know, your release with music, I mean, you've been that it was in you from day one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, everybody, literally everybody in my family is musical. So my sister who is deceased, she could sing. My older sister, she is a songwriter and an amazing indie gospel artist. My mother, her sister, her brother, my uncle who is deceased, everybody played instruments, everybody sang. But the craziest part about it is that none of us took lessons. Like, this literally is one of those things that's a God-given gift. And my grandmother, because my grandfather who I lost actually was the only one in the family that couldn't sing, but he was our pastor. So he didn't have
Yeah.
to. He made us
Yeah,
do
yeah.
all the singing.
He
He made
hyped
us
it
do all the singing. So I
up.
come from a line of preachers and singers, and most of them do both.
Yeah.
I took it outside of the church. Everybody else was, and I still say I still attend church, but I'm just the one who took it and used a different platform to continue what I feel like has been a message of hope and love through my platform
Yeah,
throughout
yeah,
these
for sure.
years.
Gospel's an interesting genre because, well, my family, I grew up playing piano, like old school boogie woogie and prohibition style blues,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
the chords are similar, and I don't think
Yes.
people know how hard like gospel, like real gospel is, and the chord
Oh yeah.
progressions. And it's a very difficult genre of music to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to
Actually,
yeah,
yeah. No, it is. And when you're talking about gospel music, the Pentecostal experience, like old school, and I'm almost 50 years old. Like, literally, I turned 47 in April. So the era that I grew up in, you would still like, it was all day services, and you
yeah,
sang nearly all service long. You were either hollering, screaming, praising God. You were singing. You were like it. So I came up in a time when like, if you didn't have it, we knew quick,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it was not an easy task. Like, you sang
Mhm.
from the time you walked in the door to the time they were locking up the church.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. How
Yes.
did that prepare you for what you ended up doing and succeeding with? I mean, because as you said, you were the only one that you know
Yeah, that took
went
it
through that.
outside of the church. I think the
Yeah,
endurance, more than anything. A lot of times singers are like, my God, what do you do to save your voice? How do you, it's all I know.
yeah,
So I think it's kind of like, I compare it to um, a person who is really built because they lift weights a lot. Our vocal
hmm
cords are muscles.
they're
So the more
absolutely
you exercise them, the stronger they are. You have to exercise them properly,
yeah,
but the more you exercise them, the stronger they are. So I don't get hoarse often. When I do, it's a serious situation because it doesn't happen often. I sing every day. I literally sing every day, and especially with being in the house now, just to
yeah.
break up
Or-
the loudness of the silence sometimes, because my dog is pretty quiet unless he's having a tantrum because I'm not playing with him and he's trying to get my attention. Um
He's
but
locked down too.
vocal cords are muscles, and the more you exercise them properly, the stronger they are.
Yeah,
We all have the same number of muscles as humans. We were all born with the same number or amount of muscle, but how you build it will decide how big those muscles
yeah, for sure.
become. And so I've been exercising my vocal cord muscles for
Whole life.
47 years.
Yeah. Your whole, how did that prepare you though? Also, I guess would say mentally for what you went into it. And again, I bring up, you said you're only one, but
Yeah.
the music industry is just a crazy, crazy business, the inside it out. How
The
did work?
music industry is a beast, and especially at the time that I was coming along, like, there was no social media, and in some ways that was good, but in other ways, social media is good for what you make it for. I think when things aren't copacetic and things don't go right, you have the availability of social media to let people know what your truth is.
Mhm.
But I was very aware that people were listening to me. They loved the stroke of my pen. They loved the sound of my voice. But the conversations in the in the rooms with the executives was, this girl is too fat, she's too black, she's too loud, like who's going to buy a record from her? Those were words that were said within earshot, and nobody cared because nobody was on Instagram going, you're fat shaming. No, nobody was doing that back then. Nobody was doing that back then. I had to,
there's like 9 guys that whole thing too, so it's like it's a small world.
The world has become much smaller because of the internet and because of social media. And so I think my life overall prepared me for the music industry, because I'm a church girl, but I was still a young black girl being raised by a single mother in the projects in New York City. And we were homeless several times, sleeping in the car until the car got taken. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And so the moments that I've had in the industry that have been tough, I have literally said to myself, you have slept outside in the New York winter. Get it together. This is not that. Like, I mean, again, it's a mental thing. You have to be intentional. People have been cruel. People have said horrible things. And then they're very intentional. But here I am. I mean, it's almost 29 years later since my first pro job was to back up George Michael at Madison Square Garden in 1992. And that turned into the Mariah Carey gig, which was the most amazing musical education outside of the church that I could have received. Because starting with my family, my musical education started there, but then who they were influenced by in gospel music, the Mahalia Jacksons, the Clarks, the Hawkins family, all of the music that I grew up on, that was my earliest beginning. But then to step into the professional world, and for those to be my first pro gigs, and to tour the world with such an amazing vocalist, and to work with her in the studio on albums. I developed my craft during those years. And when I felt like I wasn't sure if I was grown up enough to try to move into like being placed as a producer and a writer, I stepped out there and literally landed in Daddy's house. And that was the name of Puff Daddy Studio. And everything from like 96 moving forward, there's just about no album that came out of that wheelhouse that you don't hear my voice or wasn't a result of something that I had written. And it just kind of went everywhere from there.
Yeah, and that's what Todd was, saying. He was just like, homie, I don't think you really know. Like, you need to go back and look. And it was, I did know, but it was still when you read everything that you've done, it's like, wow. I mean, it's testament also mentally how you were able to accomplish that. I mean, everything. But when you were say in the studio with Mariah, so naturally you were, you did when you were writing or doing what you're doing, did it feel like you had to do it different because of where you were?
I was a student. I was a student. As much as I knew, I was very teachable. Like I felt like having grown up in a musical family and being influenced by a Dr. Mattie Moss Clark or a Twinkie Clark, that family, being influenced by their sound as well, with them being church kids that had a national or international platform with their artistry in gospel music. I was very much so a student. I was always interested in trying to see how far I could stretch what it was that I did. So if I heard something, and I was also, I stayed in trouble too, because I was in the house in a strict old school Pentecostal Christian home. I was not allowed to listen to anything other than gospel in the house. And so many days I got caught. My mother walking in the door and WBLS or 98.7 Kiss FM in New York was on the radio. I just loved different sounds. So I was the weirdo black girl walking through the projects of New York singing, tell her about it, tell her everything you feel. Because I just love music. So to me, lyrics were everything. Instrumentation was everything. Like, it wasn't just about black music for me, it was about good music. So my grandfather introduced me to classical music. And as a young kid, it drove me crazy because it just seemed like it was so overwhelming. But the more I listened to it, the more I loved it. It's amazing. So I just it life overall, I feel like the ups and downs of the music industry, the ebbs, the tides, the good seasons when R&B is hot, when R&B is not. I thank God for my writer's pen, because if people decide that they want to deal with a different kind of music during that time, thank God for publishing royalties. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
You know, so my road, I'm grateful for the road that I've taken, because I got to be a student. I literally got to be a student. I feel like, especially with Mariah, we had great exchanges. That era of music when I was with her as a background singer was an amazing era of music overall. But the woman has pipes like nobody's business. And at a
Hey,
time when she was fighting to get people to really know that that was her, not trying to sound like something, but that was really what she sounded like, because that was her voice. She got a chance to do it and be expressive, and literally the days where in the studio recording, just kind of I throw something out there and she throws something out there, and then I mimic what she does, she mimic what I did. Like I got a chance to learn from those experiences. When it came to production and on the hip hop side, my first harsh critique from Puff Daddy was "Do Less."
do
As a
less.
church girl, I tend to go hard, because in church, that's what you do.
You show out.
And I'm saying "do less," and I'm saying it nice, because like as a writer, and he comes in and he listens to what I did on the song, and he took a listen to it, and he's got this stiff face and there's no expression whatsoever, and he stops and he tells the engineer, "All right, I've heard enough," and he looks at me and he says, "So all that stuff that you was doing, that was real pretty. It sounded really, really like, no, you really can sing. Like, we know that." He said, "But if I'm in the club and I'm dancing, I want to dance. I can't get caught up in all of this pretty stuff that you're doing. People are going to be trying to hear what you're doing rather than dancing. And I'm trying to make music that makes people dance." So that was my very first harsh production
I'm
note.
going to ask you a question of that nature too,
Yes.
about working with Puff. So you answered it
Yeah, yeah.
without
Oh,
me.
trust me, that was all school for me. So I
Yeah.
started I started with Mariah at 18. I was 18 years old. I was a pregnant, single, unwed 18-year-old, and when I started working with her, and so when kids that I had gone to school with were going to college, so was I. But that was my
Mm-hmm.
college. That was my, graduate school experience for the life that I was going to live. I didn't even realize that that was the life that I would lead. I thought that I would always just, I'd get my vocal workout in church or around the
Yep.
house.
Yep.
But that was my formal education, working with these artists, and then, being bold enough to step into the position of becoming producer, writer, vocal coach, that kind of thing, in studio
Yep.
with the artists that I've worked with. It has been a most interesting ride. It really has.
And when you're writing and you're writing for somebody or this and that, is it, again, this is kind of a process question, but does it change how you write? Or because you kind of, not everybody, look, because I've written a couple rap verses for people and they can't rap
Yes.
it in the rhythm I wrote it. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
did you experience any of that while doing it?
So what I've always felt like people, as artists, this was even before I knew that I would be one, when I was still being told that I could never be one because of the way I looked, that it would be easier for an artist to sing something if it was closer to the experience of their life. So if
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I was tasked to write a song for a specific artist, I made it a point to try and get to know more about them. I would try to read or ask as many questions about them as I could, even down to like what's going on in their love life. Like, do
Yeah.
they, like that kind of thing, because I can write, and if it's something that they connect with immediately, of course they'll be able to, because I'm literally writing someone else's story for them. So
You go.
writing music for someone else is like being brought in a co-author position for somebody who is maybe doing their own autobiography, but because they're not a writer, they bring in a professional writer and they do it with that person.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like when I was being brought in, and still even now, if I'm writing for somebody else, it's better for me to know them. And if I don't know them, then I do what I need to do to get to know them. If I can speak to them, and at this point, speaking to them is not a problem. If somebody wants me,
Of course.
I can talk to them and just get in it with them. But back then, nobody really knew who I was. The record company executives did. So they brought me in to do it. But I would ask questions about the artist. I wanted to get to know more about them so that I could tailor the music to them so they would have an easier experience of translating the song. And the funny thing about you talking about like cadence and doing it exactly the same way that you did it, I got a very interesting, again, critique from Ronald Mr. Biggs Isley. He said to me, "You make your job hard." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said to me, "You need to hire somebody to come in and do your demos." He said, because it could be very intimidating to get a song that you've written that you've demoed, and then the artist then feels like they have to interpret it the way you sang it. So and it was a wise thing that he told me to, on some of the stuff that I was writing, bring somebody else in and let them sing it so that the artist then doesn't feel like they have to live up to my translation of it, because the way I do it doesn't make it better. It's just the way I translated it. But the song is for you. So you got to do it how you feel it. And so I'm grateful. Again, I was in school.
Yeah. And of course, because you're never going to hear the song a second time. Once you hear the song once, that's how you heard it.
That's how you heard it.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, with some of the ghostwriting I've done for some rappers, it's like, no, you got to take your breath there so you can say the word here. But, you know, sometimes it doesn't translate, and it's nothing anybody's doing wrong. So,
right.
Okay, we got to ask now, you did two, you did two singles. Yes. New singles. Let's talk about these.
And just, it's on just some indie, just put it out there and hope that it does something for someone. So what I need is an inspirational song, more geared to the gospel side, but I like to say inspirational because I believe the message is for everybody, even if we don't share the same faith. And it's just kind of a prayer, really. It's a personal, anybody can take it and adapt themselves to it. It's more of you know, God, give me what I need in this moment to be okay. And not just to be okay, but to be better and to do better, and for life to be easier, and for me to be stronger, and for me to be the me that you sent me to earth to be, and not live life so much from a standpoint of what I want, but more so focused on what I need. Because sometimes what we want is not necessarily the best thing for us.
A lot of times, to be with you, a lot of times those two don't line up when it comes down to it.
They do not line up a lot of times. So what I need is literally that scenario. I've done it my way. I've gone for what I want, and that ain't worked out so well in the past. So please give me what I need so that I can be the best me that I need to be in this life. And then the other one is Unsung. And it's a ballad. It's Kelly Price indeed. From the way I wrote it to the way that I sung it, the dynamics of it. It's a story of love lost. And then depending on how you listen to it and how you interpret it for your own love story or your life story, it's either a song about regret or a song about what you need to do so that you don't have a bunch of regrets. It literally is the perspective of the listener, and it's called Unsung.
That's amazing. But you know, it's so amazing how music does that though, because I'll bring an example. Like one of my favorite hip hop songs growing up was a Tupac song called "It Ain't Easy."
Yeah.
And some people hear that song and be like, "Man, this is so sad." And I hear that song and it reminds me of back then, and then where I'm at now.
Yes.
I'm actually happy.
Yeah.
Where I'm at now, and it's what, you know, like, but back then, you know, you heard it like, man, it sucks. Like, this sucks, you know. And
it's vantage point. It's all POV. It's point, and these are my TV terminologies. I'm acting like I know a little something about television production now that I've been doing it for the last couple of years. So it's literally all about your point of view from where you sit. What you see and how you feel literally comes from the position that you're in and how you see it from the position that you're in. 5, 10, 15 years later, you look back on that thing and you're in a different position in life. It doesn't look the same anymore. It doesn't make you feel the same anymore because you're not in the same position. Hopefully 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you're not in the exact same position that you were in back then. So yeah, perspective is everything. So depending on where you are in life will decide what your translation of unsung is. You're either singing about your unsung life or the fact that you're not going to let your life be unsung. Every opportunity that you get to sing, and sing me is just using song as the thing. If it's dance, then dance. If it's go to school, then go to school. If it's start a business, then start a business. But don't be don't live life out of fear or just so many things. Like if this time in the world right now hasn't shown us anything, it is a reminder. I tell people, I don't care whether or not you believe that you get to come back 50 times. Live life like it's the only time you get to live it. That's the only way to be sure. And don't worry about the regrets. I'd rather try and fail than not try at all.
And I think sometimes though it's good to be a little bit scared, but don't let it stop you from doing it. Because
not to the point of where you're frozen and you don't try.
It's good to be cautious. Look at all the
healthy fear. It's a healthy fear.
Yeah.
There's a difference. There's a difference when fear literally has the ability to stop you dead in your tracks. And I'm not talking about like natural fight or flight. That's natural and that's good. That's healthy.
Yeah.
But you literally just don't try to do something more or something better because you're afraid. Like that's a horrible way to live life, and been there, done that in certain areas. Not doing that anymore. Like I live life like this is your one shot. Like what? Honestly, Eminem, when he said you only got one shot, like
Real
that
talk.
used to be my workout. That was one of my workout songs. Like I would put that in my ear and just put it on repeat and let it get in my head. And it's crazy. I'm a musical person, but literally when I know I have a task to do and I need to get amped up, I go to hip hop to get like revved up for it. I go straight to hip hop so I can get my New York edge and get myself together for whatever it is that I need to do.
Okay, so hip hop coming from Queens. Who's some of your favorite Queens artists? Hip hop artists, we'll say.
Ooh, Nas, of course, Queensbridge. Shout out to LL because he was high school for me. Like, I don't think there's anybody. 50 was right up the road from where my grandfather's church is right now. My grandfather's not here anymore. His church is still here in the same location after all these years on the south side of Jamaica, Queens. Yeah. So I'm a Queens girl. I mean, Nikki's from south side of Jamaica. There's a lot of talent. Run DMC, straight out of Hollis. That's Queens. Yeah. A lot of talent. I like to get to start naming them. I would never want to disrespect anybody by leaving their name off. So I'm gonna digress to the church. They give you the little speech in church when if I forgot to call your name, charge it to my head and not to my heart, because I love everything that comes out of Queens, because Queens is just that place.
I tell you what, Queensbridge had Mobb Deep, Nas, Tragedy, Gaddafi.
All yes.
You know,
see what I'm saying?
Like,
yes.
These dudes were
and then growing up, even though times were rough, again, I can look back on those times and I think of the beauty of those times. Like when we were going through it, when I was a kid, when there were the homeless times, when there was the no food in the house times, or the lights were out times, it might not have been, as a kid, it was rough. But I look back on those times and I think about how community was and how family was and how, like, I said to someone recently, how do we get through this time in life? We have to be intentional about checking up on each other. I have some elderly neighbors directly next to me. I just hit my neighbor every few days and I'm like, hey, do y'all need anything from the grocery store? Y'all okay? Because they're older and they don't need to be in the streets. They're more at risk. That's how we get through it. Once upon a life, you could go borrow 2 eggs till the end of the week when you got your check and you went grocery shopping. But, whether it's for fear of feeling like people are going to look at you differently, or you don't want them to think that you don't have it like that, like the day COVID is shutting all of that nonsense down. Stop fronting. If you need something, ask for it. Like, that's the only way we got to help each other. Know what's going on with your neighbors, know what's going on with your people, check in on each other. It's necessary because there are a lot of people who are sheltering in place and they're at home alone. Yeah.
And, you're right, though, about the era, because when I grew up, and I'm 40, there was like the
a little younger than me.
the neighborhoods, I mean, you knew who everybody was and what they were doing and everything.
Yeah.
So if you saw
You knew when
something,
somebody showed up in the neighborhood that wasn't from the neighborhood.
yeah, yeah, and
Real
when you
quick.
and if something was off too, you'd be
Yep.
like, wait a minute, Mr.
Yeah.
Peterson, this look right, like or something. So and it's not like that. I mean anymore. But you're right too. You
Yeah.
listen to music back then, almost makes you happy now because it's like, oh man, I remember when.
It was a great musical time. Like we didn't have money to go shopping, but I just like walking up Jamaica Avenue. Anybody that's
Yeah,
from Queens, New York knows exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Like I like just the era, the time. It was bamboo earrings. They was
hmm,
faking your ears was gonna be green if you wore them for too many
yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah,
But what
yeah.
the solution to that was you got some clear nail polish and you painted over the earrings to try to hold the fake gold from peeling back. Like, but it was a different
Wow.
era. It was ponytails with the lollipop stuck in the top, like, or you sucking on the lollipop while you standing. Like that was a real thing. When you
Yeah,
hear those lyrics from those eras,
of course.
they were like, I can't speak to a lot of what's happening maybe currently, but for the most part, that era of music, what the people were singing and rapping about was actually their story. They weren't
Hmm.
creating a storyline inside of the music. They were telling their life inside of the music. And I think that's why it felt different. It wasn't contrived. It wasn't made up. It wasn't manufactured. It wasn't assembly line.
Yeah, here's
It
a
was the
piece of me.
story. It was the actual life of the person whose music you were
Yeah,
listening to, and it made it so much more. It you felt it, because they were talking about their real life struggle, and you know when somebody's faking it.
of course, of course.
Yeah.
So I know Instagram cuts because we're not verses, so cuts us off like 45 minutes. So I gotta ask because
Okay.
these fans are gonna kill me if I don't. But all I've seen down this line is Whitney Houston, late great
Yeah.
Whitney Houston.
Late
Um,
great, never be another.
so they want to hear a little bit about that experience.
Whitney reached out to me after hearing friend of mine. This is exactly what she said to me. She said she was driving down Jersey Turnpike, I-95. And she said she heard this. She was a friend of mine. She said, girl, I about crashed into the media. And I was like, who is this? Because at the time, nobody knew what I looked like. The song was at radio. You had the name, and all you had was my logo, that KP with the funky little glasses on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted the glasses because I've been wearing glasses since I was 6 years old. So when
Okay,
I started
work.
making money, I tried to get nice glasses because the only glasses we could get were the ones that were in the welfare case
Yeah,
and they were
yeah.
always horrible looking. So when I started working in my early teens, I would save my money so I could buy cute glasses until I started wearing contact lenses.
That's
And
awesome.
so that's how Whitney heard the song, and she made a call. She was like, whoever this girl is, find her for me. And literally, once I met her and once we met each other, we really kind of never let each other go. There were lapses, like when she was going through other stuff more intently with, with dealing with addiction and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
There would be lapses, but that would be because she would kind of push me away.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but that I know what that is. I mean, everybody at least has someone in their family that has dealt with addiction, or someone up close and personal who has dealt with it. And I've dealt with it in my family, so I know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But we had a love that literally, from the first time we hugged each other until she wasn't here anymore. And almost literally, because the last time people saw her, like, she came to be with me after me being off the scene and taking a few years off to try and raise my kids, because I was like, my kids gonna be out in these streets and they're gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not home enough. And I put out the Kelly album, and doing that album as an indie, we ended up with a total of 4 Grammy nominations with that project. And so we did the party in LA to celebrate it. Like, I wasn't the party type girl. But when she heard about it, she was like, so are you, like, I'm coming. Are you having a party? I want to come. I want to be there. I want to celebrate you. And so she came. And then we lost her, like, literally less than 30 hours later, we were together for the last time that night. And we had literally just been hanging out and chilling all night long. I didn't ask her to come to the stage. I didn't want to put her on the spot like that. I know
Yeah.
what that feels like to go to see an artist who is a friend and to be put on the spot. Like that wasn't the plan. And literally when I looked, she was walking and she was like, give me the mic. And just, you know, and, but yeah. So that last hug, in just in hindsight, when I think about that last hug, it made all the sense in the world to me that it was our last hug.
Wow.
Yeah. But
And
I can only say that now because my perspective,
yeah.
I'm at a different place, because I couldn't have said that to you when it happened. I was just like, what? No.
That's
No,
interesting. And so
I was just with her. What the hell are you talking about? Like literally when my phone rang.
Yeah.
And I called when I was told that, I'm dialing a family member, and when they answer the phone, I hear screaming in the background, so I knew it was true.
Yeah,
so,
that's just,
yeah.
And again, with the media the way it is now, then you can't even deal with it on your own, because it's just everywhere and everybody has an opinion and everybody has what they think. You know, it's just crazy. So that's, I know,
I'm gonna stick with my version of the story because I actually know, because I was there. I know that people said she tried to commit suicide. That's BS. Like, I get angry when I hear it, because we had a great time that night. But I will tell you this: I learned a lesson throughout that period. If I didn't know better because I was there, I would have believed the things that people said, because they were very well put together lies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there, and I had to kind of do a double take on some of the stuff that I was reading. I was like, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
She stayed tucked in a corner with me all night. I had a reserved section for her. And she said, no, I want to stay up here with you. But I hosted my own party that night along with Faith Evans and Kenny. And so she was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay up here with you. So we literally roped off the back side of the stage with some velvet ropes and put security there. Her and Chrissy, and we put a couple of high stools back there, literally on the back side of the stage. And her people stood a few feet apart so that she could enjoy herself and dance and do whatever. But it was, I learned, the way I learned about the way stuff can be put together in this business. If I wasn't at my own party, I would have believed everything that I read. But I was there, so I know the truth.
Well, she's missed for sure. She's
she's a once in a lifetime gift,
for sure,
and we recognize that. Like, that happens once in a lifetime. Barbara Streisand is a once in a lifetime thing. You know, like, there are special gifts that we get in creativity and in the arts. You know, Bach was one of a kind. He was a once in a lifetime thing. Mendelssohn was a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah.
Mahalia Jackson was a once in a life. There are special gifts that we get in the world of the arts that, you know, that they were a once in a lifetime thing. And Whitney Houston certainly was that.
I know another one is you, the Miss Kelly Price.
Oh my God. That's a tall order. Maybe I'll get there before my time is done. I plan on living a really long time.
Well, then there's just
my lips to God's ears.
So much more to accomplish. I thank you so much for sitting down with us. I would love to sit down with you again.
We should. We absolutely should. We've got to get. I'm going to catch up on American Soul tonight. I'm binging because I've been filming. I've been filming virtually, finishing the season of Sunday Best. And so I want to catch up on American Soul, because people have hit me like, oh my God, it was such a great episode. And I'm like, I haven't seen it yet. So that's my plan tonight.
Enjoy your Saturday evening again. Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I'm
going to get the wine. Next time we're going to do it with glasses of wine.
We got it. We're going to set a whole thing. I promise.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
You too. We will.
Thank you. I will too. Thank you, sir.
In action with you soon. Miss Kelly Price.
Absolutely.
What's the word?
Thank you.
All right. What's the Word podcast? We love that. We love her. That was super dope. So we're going to get off the air real quick. We'll be back at 6 o'clock in 15 minutes with Taj from SWV. So this, is the part 2 of our R&B Saturday evening. You know what I'm saying? So come back. Everybody's listening right now. Come back and let's catch up with Taj from SWV. I see my man Todd Davis. We doing this. What's the Word podcast? We'll be back about 15 minutes. Peace.